Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome to our project here in Punta Gorda, Florida, where we're building a storm-ready house. If you were with us in the last couple of weeks, you've seen that we're building all out of concrete, including the exterior walls. Today, we're going to give you a look at the roofing systems, from the interior truss work, how you sheathe it, how you tie it down, most importantly. And also, we'll be hot mopping and putting on the cement tile. Lots to do. Stick around. During our last two visits here, we've seen this house essentially rise from the ground because the house that was here before had to be scraped right off the lot. We watched as a slab was poured with a stem wall, a new kind of twist that allows a defense against the storm surges. When the hurricanes come and the tides rise high, the water often is driven underneath slabs, which cause the entire slab to float up and move, and that essentially destroys a house. What you see here is basically a stem wall that goes down below the slab about 3 or 4 courses. And that, as I say, really is one of the lifesavers for this type of construction. But the interesting thing that we saw was the process of building this whole structural wall system, which involved putting together this enormous wire cage, if you will, reinforcing rods and 6x6 wire mesh that was put all together and fastened all together and is essentially the reinforcing of all these walls. We're used to seeing concrete block walls everywhere in Florida. Here, it's all one monolithic pour. They created this, and before they put the formwork in place, they installed a window buck anywhere that a window was called for. And then once the formwork was installed and put together and reinforced, the pour went on for about 4 hours and about 4 trucks worth of concrete to see what we've got here right now. Now, to catch you up on the situation here, the house that belonged to Jim Minardi and Teresa Fogolini, the owners of the land, was totally destroyed by Hurricane Charlie just about a year ago. The roof was blown into the canal on top of their little sailboat, and everything that was in the house was destroyed. So we're very lucky to be working in a state that's prepared for storms like this. State and local governments do a lot to help people like Teresa and Jim rebuild. And what we've got right now is an opportunity to demonstrate to people in Florida around the country the kind of building technologies that can help create a house that really can withstand hurricane-force winds. And to learn more about this, let's go in the garage. Leslie Chapman-Henderson is with us again. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Bob.
From FLASH, of course. Now, tell us what FLASH is.
FLASH is the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes. We're an organization that was convened after Hurricane Andrew when it became clear that homeowners needed information about how to protect themselves from high winds like hurricanes. Since that time in 1998, we've grown dramatically. We're now working across the country, helping people understand how to build safely in the face of wildfires or earthquakes, hail, and other types of threats.
So it's not just about hurricane survival?
No, sir. In this country, our citizens like to build in harm's way because that's where nature is at its best. $250 billion was spent last year on remodeling, and inside those numbers, there's plenty of space to think safety and think prevention on your house.
So that's $250 billion.
That is.
What percentage of that was spent by the ladies of the house?
Well, Harvard tells us that 80% of those decisions were made by the female in the household.
That's a lot of money on home improvements.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
So if we were looking at this house, what we would want to talk about, we've got these terrific concrete walls for impact resistance, and how are we going to keep this roof on top?
What happens in a hurricane in terms of the wind trying to blow the roof off?
Well, the wind comes from every different direction, and it's important to remember you can't just plan for one type of wind. It's very dynamic. It's going to come and push on your house. It's also going to pull on your roof. So what you want to do is plan for connecting all the different parts of the house so that it can work as a unit and it doesn't fail or
and here,
fall apart.
Overhead, we've got a truss system, and it's a little complicated to understand it right now because we've got all these different members coming together, including the joists for the ceiling. We're in the garage, and we can see the trusses up there, which are factory made, right?
That's right.
And the key to all of this is what you're just talking about, is how you fasten all that.
Holding it down onto this wall system. We've got to do that because the wind is going to come potentially up underneath these eaves and try to pull or peel the roof off. So every place where it's attached has to be reinforced with the wind in mind.
Let's learn more about these ties.
Okay. This is Randy Shackelford from Simpson Strong Tie.
Mom.
Hi, Randy. Good to meet you.
Right, nice to meet you.
So I know your company's been making metal connectors and parts for many, many years, but we've got a whole assortment of things in my truck here from the perspective of how we make this roof system tight.
Right. Probably the most common connector that's used in this house is this embedded truss anchor.
Yeah.
As they're pouring these concrete walls,
Right.
they stick that in about
Right.
4 inches, and then it sticks up, and then when they deliver the trusses, they wrap it over the trusses.
So
and
these
nail it
just
to the heel.
bend
Bends right
and you
over
just
and nails.
smash them into place and
Right.
nail them. And of course we've got those at every single point along the perimeter of the house where a roof member comes into contact with the concrete
Right,
wall.
each one of these trusses has one of those embedded truss anchors on
Great.
it.
Now, can these be used in a kind of retrofit situation?
It's really tough to do because, as you can see, it has to be put into the wet concrete when it's being poured. So we do make some other connectors that can be used once the concrete is already poured. And these are a little bit different. You can see they don't stick into the concrete, but instead you would drill holes in the concrete and use these masonry screws right through those holes like that, and then this would wrap around the truss similar to the embedded truss anchor.
Or if you don't have a house with trusses, you just have joists and roof rafters, you can still use
Exactly
this.
the same, right.
Great. What do these things cost?
Probably a little over $1
Yeah,
each
they're
for that
cheap.
one.
Yeah. Now this looks to all the world like just a joist hanger.
Right, but this is actually a heavy truss hanger, and there's a couple of things. In this house, we're using this type of truss hanger because you can see it has these slant nails, and these nails give the connection a lot of uplift resistance too.
I see. Through each one of these perforations here, you can nail at a slant.
Right.
Toenail.
So it connects the two. It's similar, very similar to a
And it's got a lot more holes in it.
lots of
than-
nail holes,
yeah.
as you can see. Right.
Can this also be used in masonry?
It could, but there are other connectors that can be used for masonry. For example, this connector right here, and you can see it's got a concealed flanges so that it's hidden in case it's in an exposed location,
I
like
see.
you'll see back on the back porch.
Okay.
And this also they would just drill in and then use these masonry screws to come in and fasten it to the masonry.
Gotcha. Now, what are these heavy-looking things used for?
This is our heavy girder connector. For when the little trusses, like we see in most of this house, they just have maybe 1,000, 1,500 pounds of uplift on them. But for a girder like we have over here.
Which one is, this is a girder, this double one.
Right, this multiple members, you can see there's lots of other trusses framing into it, so it supports a much bigger area of the roof.
Right.
And because of that, it has a much bigger uplift force on it.
Okay.
So this type of connector can hold up to almost 5,000 pounds of uplift, and this is also retrofittable on the side. So I think we're going to see this being installed. In
Well, here we've got it installed in a situation, obviously, right at the end of this girt, where the concrete wall and the place where it comes to rest upon it. Thanks, Randy. Jesse Gonzales is here from Mercedes Homes, the company that's building this house. And since last week, of course, you've made huge progress. We've got a roof in place, and by the end of today, it's all going to be a completed roof, right?
Correct, yes. What we have is we have the trusses in place. Right now the guys are up here hot mopping the roof, and we have tile guys on standby to start installing the tile right after they're done.
And we're very excited about that, but let's talk about the different elements. What's the black stuff that we're looking at?
That is a 30-pound felt that they put down over the plywood.
So this is not a roll roofing, but what they call a 30-pound felt. It's a kind of an asphalt impregnated paper product,
Yes, correct.
right? And that's usually the first step.
That is the first step. And then after that, what they do is they mop down a 90-pound.
Okay, slow down. The green roll roofing that we're looking at is rated 90 pounds.
90 pounds.
And what makes it green?
Just colors. They have different colors. Color means nothing on them.
But there's mineral granules on
Correct.
it. All right? And the color doesn't mean anything, although in some cases you can put up a roll roof and you'd have a green roof.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about these design elements that I wasn't familiar with. It looks like a dormer, but...
Correct. It's just a decorative dormer. We have one over here above the garage, and we have one over the master. It's just there pretty
Now,
much.
what we're looking at then is all wood framed,
Correct.
and it's just attached to the roof system.
On top of the roof system.
Okay. And why do you bother with a house wrap on it?
We house wrap all exposed wood. It's just to keep water intrusion out.
Just to keep that to an end. And then the little porch over the front door area, that's also kind of has an unusual design feature. Tell me about that.
Right, what we do is we try to mirror the arch over here on this decorative dormer over here to give the front kind of a good look.
And eventually there'll be a nice column in there?
Correct. There'll be a cast column on here. There'll be one here and then two over here where we have the exposed beams.
It's amazing how quickly this is all going, though. I
Yes.
mean, start to finish, from a bare lot, how many weeks will have passed when you expect completion?
Probably about 8 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks.
8 to 9 weeks.
Correct.
That's a short period of time. All right, let's go on the back side because I know they're still putting some of the sheathing on there, right?
Correct.
Yeah. All right, I know this is all going at breakneck speed, but you're putting the finishing touches on sheathing the house, and you've already got the hot mark going too.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about what we're doing, because we've already talked about the truss system, and now it's not oriented strand board that you're using.
No, we're using 5/8 plywood.
Which is, I think, a good call. I mean, traditionally in the industry, you see a lot of half-inch plywood for the roof sheathing, and that extra bit of thickness is going to give you a lot of stiffness, right?
Correct.
Great. Now, what are these metal pieces that are put down?
They're putting on the plywood clips that helps keep all the plywood in line.
Plywood clips. So that's not necessarily about keeping the roof structurally sound in a hurricane. It's just about making sure that the plywood lies down
Correct.
flat and evenly. Okay, so the basic floor plan of the house is a big L, and the lanai out there is an L, but this open area is a front door here, and then what do you call all this?
This is a formal dining and living area. You got dining over here and living over here.
Yeah, this happens very much in modern floor plans, that you kind of have a token formal fireplace, a dining area, and formal living room.
Correct.
But the house is pretty informal. Yeah. So then what's over on this side?
What we have over here, we have the master bedroom over here.
All of the space is master suite.
All of it's master suite. Over here is the actual bed area, and this is the 12 by 18 area.
12, 18, what's the ceiling height?
9-foot ceiling height.
That's very nice. Yeah. A 9-foot ceiling and a big, huge slider so that you've got the view of the canal from practically anywhere in the house. And then you got your walk-in closets. This is probably hers, it's bigger.
Yes, this is hers.
And his behind it.
Correct.
And then the bathroom area.
Yes, what we have in here is we have a vanity over here. We have a nice garden tub over here, walk-in shower, vanity, and a water closet.
Now you call it a garden tub?
Nice soaking tub. It'll be a jetted tub.
Okay, but it's a garden tub because it'll have a big window with a view of the landscape. All right. And then 2 separate vanities, and this closet is, like in Victorian days, the water closet.
Water closet.
The toilet. Nice layout. And again, that 9-foot ceiling height throughout makes a big difference. All right, let's look at the other side. And everywhere we've got metal studs, which of course is a great idea from the point of view of termites, but tell me about the detailing here.
What we have here is we have a 3-step arch. We're going to come in here, move over, and it's a 3-step arch. Nice arch up here with the plywood reinforcements.
So that the plywood just stiffens the whole thing.
Correct.
Very nice touch. No door, though. It's
No door.
open right onto
Into the kitchen area.
The kitchen.
Yep, what we have over here is we have the refrigerator over here. We have an oven tower here, a nice cooktop range here, dishwasher, and kitchen sink with a nice bar top.
And an island in the middle.
An island in the middle.
Okay, and it's the ideal layout. The garage is just steps away. You drive in with your groceries, and what's in here?
What we have over here is the laundry room.
Nice and spacious. Great. And then everything is open all the way across.
Correct.
What's this area?
This over here is the breakfast nook area.
Just big enough for maybe a table for 5 at the most, but the 3 windows, and you'll be able to look out at the lanai and eventually a little tiny splash pool out there, right? And then this is all
this is the family room over here. This is a 14 by 24 family room.
1424, excellent. And then on the other side of the wall, how many bedrooms?
What we have is 3 bedrooms and 1 bath over here. The bedrooms are approximately a 10 by 12 rooms.
10 by 12, so that you've got plenty of room for kids or visiting grandkids. Yeah. Nice layout. Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to talk about our roofing tiles right now with Bart Cox from Hanson. This is the company that makes the tile, and Dave Peck from the Peck Roofing Contracting Company that's installing it. Let's talk first about the tile. The look is like an old-fashioned clay tile, right?
That's correct, Bob. It's basically concrete, sand, and pigment for the color.
So it's no longer clay. I mean, I've heard stories in the old days they actually formed the clay barrel tiles on people's thighs by hand.
That's correct. That was over 10,000 years ago. It's very similar to the same methods we're using now. It's extruded concrete tile.
This is extruded through a machine.
That's correct, at a factory. One
Okay.
of 4 factories in the state of Florida.
Pretty hefty stuff.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to believe that a tile this heavy can be lifted off by hurricane winds as easily as we've seen.
That's true. We learned a lot of lessons over the past few years from different hurricanes.
Now, Dave Peck, how long have you been installing roofs in the state of Florida?
For about 15 years.
Yeah, so there's a lot that just roofing contractors that just got here in the last 15 minutes because there's so much demand after the hurricanes, right?
Exactly. A lot of people flooded in from all over the country.
Now, in the 15 years that you've been in business, have you seen a lot of kind of differences in the way that you're required to install roofs?
Yes, that's true. We've learned a lot, as Bart said. After several storms, we've learned what works, what doesn't, so we keep tweaking it down to what we think is the best system to be applied out in the field.
Now, many barrel tiles and mission tile roofs were often in the past just laid down over the kind of the roll roofing underneath it, and maybe some patties of cement would kind of hold it together. Tell me how they used to do it, and then we'll look at how you're doing it now.
In different parts of the country and parts of the world, they just laid it in place.
Right.
I think when it first came into the United States and into Florida, it was cemented on. But after years of testing, changes in the product's a lot stronger than it used to be because it's machine extruded.
Right.
So it's a lot less permeable. So the cement products didn't work as well using cement patties to apply them. So after Andrew, we learned a lot. So we started Hurricane Andrew. Then we came up with different methods and did additional testing to see what works and what doesn't.
Now, these are mechanically fastened up there with through these holes, right?
That's correct. We're putting screws in through the holes.
So there's screws that go all the way through down to into the plywood.
Into the deck. So the
Let's recap what's already been done here, though, because we know that we started off with 5/8" plywood, and then take us through the steps that have already been done before you put the tile on.
The first thing that goes down is a 30-pound felt. That's mechanically fastened as well.
It's nailed on.
It's nailed on with simplex nails.
Right.
The next step is the hot mop situation with a 90-pound roll roofing. It's hot mopped on. It's also mechanically fastened at the top.
So when we're talking about the hot mopping, it's actually hot melted tar that's being pumped up to the roof, and it's being mopped just like a kitchen mop over the felt, and then
the 90-pound rolled roofing is rolled out on top of that.
On top of it.
And each successful course of that is nailed at the top, and the next course is mopped in over the top of that to cover the nails.
So you got that much overlap, right?
Correct.
You got a real thick layer of asphalt on that roof before you even contemplate the clay tiles.
Exactly.
Okay. But then now we're looking at the clay tiles being put down, and I see a lot of metal and different things that I wasn't expecting. Tell me about what we're looking at, for example, right here on the...
This piece right here is something relatively new on this type of a roof pitch. It's called hip and ridge nailer boards. These are actually made of metal. We find they're a lot straighter under that case, and we can keep them in our shop better. These come out, this is something, like I said, relatively new to this area.
Right.
They'll help to hold on the hip and ridge tile. One of the things we've learned through the last storms is the hip and ridge tile, which traditionally were just cemented on or cemented and glued, had some problems with that because the wind blew those off. They would hit the field tile,
right,
and therefore cause some of the field tile to actually blow up because it had been broken from the flying debris from the hip and ridge tile.
Right, so what you're calling a hip and ridge, the hip and or ridge of the roof, what we also just call a cap tile, right?
That's correct.
Exactly. They would fly off, so now those will be mechanically fastened into that steel.
They're actually being mechanically fastened, and they're using foam adhesive on those. That way it gets a bite down on both ends of the tile.
All right, it's a great job. Thanks for coming on, guys. All right, that's it for today. Next time, we're going to be working here in Florida. We're going to take you on a tour of the factory where the windows with impact-resistant glass are being made, and we'll show you how they're installed. Till then, I'm Bob Vila.